Hey, this is Genevieve Stafford Jack. Another day of the challenge. And today we're going to be focusing on how much rent do I charge my tenants in the property? Well, before I even get into that, right, the analysis paralysis that comes through is if I overestimate the charge for rent, then my place is going to stay vacant. But if I undervalue what goes into my property, I may just get tenants that are less favorable to me. So this is where the worry and concern comes in from many of the people that have positioned this question to me. So yes, today this is what we're going to be zoning in on. How much rent do I charge my tenants for my property? So the one disclaimer I want to make today is that the rent and your bond are independent of each other. I had to get that off my chest at the beginning because I often see people saying, if my bond is 5,000 and the rent in this area is 5,000, who's going to pay the utilities? Who's going to pay all of the other stuff? And then they end up supplementing, like the traditional way of property investing. You know, the traditional way is that you supplement for X amount of years. Because what will happen is, as the years go by, rent goes up, but you're still going to be paying your bond. So that distance you start creating is now going to start paying for the other stuff that you've been paying for. And ultimately, your rent is going to then cover everything else. So just highlights. I'm not talking to that sort of thinking, okay? But I also want to remind you that your bond and your rent are independent of each other. So here's why I say this. You know, when I got into property investing and I started learning of the types of property that I now need to look out for, most of the times, if not all the times, the actual property itself is either distressed or the owner was distressed. So what do I mean? The property was distressed, which means it was dilapidated, potentially run down and needs a lot of attention and a lot of fixing up, you know, that sort of distress. Sometimes the owner is distressed, which means the owner may just be saying, oh, I'm so over this, I don't have money to maintain my property, or I'm going to Australia, or let me not just poke fun too much, okay? Or I'm leaving the country, or my job is called me through to Cape Town, and my property is here in Joburg, and I don't want to keep it. Or they're going through a divorce or some sort of thing like that. Or sometimes you'll find somebody just says, I'm old now, I don't want to be dealing with tenants. So this is how you could classify what a distressed owner is. So we were then taught to go and look for such properties because you're going to find it under market value. So the market will then determine in a certain area that this house is worth 500,000. So the area says, you know what, this is 500,000. And then because of the situation that is there, you eventually negotiate this person down and you get this place for 350,000. So what if you've got a deposit and all sorts of stuff, your closing costs and everything goes to 400,000, and here you've got 100,000 of equity in this particular property. If you now go and take this particular property through to the bank for the bank to finance it, okay, now your bond is not sitting at 5,000 because the property is 500,000. It may be sitting at 3,000 or 3,500 or thereabouts because you bought it for a lot cheaper. So this is why I say the bond and your rent is independent of each other. When you start with property education, you're then taught to run the numbers to understand that you are making money from day one. How would I come up with my rent? Here are certain things that you could think about. Think about the area that you're in. Look at the comparables. 2-bed, 1-bath, garage. Is that going for 5,000? Is that the specs, the features of your particular property? If that is the features of your property, then you will find that in the area for a single family coming into that particular property, it is then 5,000 rent. But if you say to yourself, I'm sure I could do better, you can think of different strategies because your different strategies will then call in different types of rent. What do I mean by that? Say, for example, that same 2-bed, 1-bath garage type of scenario, you can then say, you know what, I'm looking for 2 young professionals You literally want to put the attributes of the type of tenant you're looking for to suss out people, and also not contravene certain acts of, you are being prejudiced against others. So you want to maybe then say, I'm looking for young professionals that do not have pets type vibe. So say, for example, you get these young professionals. In this property, you decide you're going to put a washing machine and Wi-Fi. So maybe the single rooms in that area may be going for 2,500 Rand. But couldn't you say 3,500 Rand, because there's Wi-Fi, there's dishwasher you'll be sharing with somebody else, and there you are collecting 6,000 Rand in a typical 2-bed, 1-bath in the area that you are looking in, that usually goes for 5,000, and then you'll be able to charge them 6,000. But actually, I do get ahead of myself, because this video is really just about how do I come to the right rental charge to charge my tenants. And this is the comparables that you will be able to do. Gain knowledge of the area, understand what people are actually renting in the area. Go on to Google, type 2-bed, 1-bath, 1 garage, and actually see what is happening in that particular area. Another thing that you can do is you can literally phone around to some of those particular adverts that eventually pop up when you've typed in your 2-bed, 1-bath, 1 garage, and you can actually find what all comes with this particular property. What you're literally doing is you are now soliciting information from people that have already marketed their 2-bed, 1-bath garage in the area that you've got your property in, and you're now understanding why they're charging, what they're charging, is there any hidden costs, and things of this nature. Something else that I want you to consider, not every 2-bed, 1-bath and a single garage is made equal. Is there something else unique about your property, right? And what do I mean by this? Sometimes, and just sometimes, you could have a 2-bed, 1-bath, and a double garage, which then means if you are appealing to a single family, husband and wife got cars, they're going to be inclined to potentially pay 300 more or 400 Rand more. Why? Because it's a double garage and not a single garage. What is unique about your property that could get your ideal tenant into your property? What if you are appealing to young professionals who are potentially doing their articles, and your property is close to a mall, and this is where some people are actually going to have a part-time job and they don't have a car? So the distance to some of the local amenities may just be an advantageous point for you. So I want to say, in this particular video, I trust that some of the stuff that I have spoken about touches and ticks the boxes on how much can you charge. Always remember to measure apples with apples. You got a 2-bed, 1-bath, 1 garage. Look for in the area what's happening with that. If you have to, go as far as going to view those other properties. Why? So that you can kind of collect data, so that you understand what's happening in your property. I just trust that this tips in this video has helped you. I look forward to serving you in the next episode.